Hello, and welcome to the first official episode of Dan Does Steam. Has your Steam list become a mausoleum to your monetary mistakes? Do you find yourself trawling through humble bundles looking for a more legitimate fix to help wean you off the crack of key reselling websites? Well, come and live vicariously through me as I attempt to bash through my entire Steam collection and secretly plan the death of Game Newell. And you can find every game on that list in a link in the description. This week I'm going to be reviewing a game about the inevitable end result of a capitalist society taken to space as the need for resources begins to outweigh the value of human life. No, not that one, it's Alien Isolation. And when you look at that, I managed to miss both the Halloween deadline and my own personal deadline, setting up a precedent for the future. Subscribe! So in a nutshell, the game is kind of an alternate reality / untold story where you follow the daughter of Ellen Ripley as she tries to discover the fate of her mother following the events of the first Alien film. Through the somewhat outdated mechanic of audio logs and computer terminals, you eventually uncover a conspiracy that involves corporate and personal betrayal and ask some of the questions brought up in the Prometheus films. Such as how far we would go for scientific curiosity and who the true monsters really are. Spoiler alert, it's the fucking alien. So there's a lot to talk about, let's jump right in. Games in the mid-2010s were in a strange graphical limbo. Like, look at this face. It looks okay, you know, the textures of the skin, the reflection in the eyes, everything on its own looks great. And yet, as a whole, they still look really derpy. The game is just over 5 years old right now, and it looks very polished for the most part. Even on my ever-aging rig, the game never stuttered, except during some of the cutscenes, although this is probably due to the fact that my 1060 is no longer compatible with this older engine. The designs of the androids and the aliens themselves are really creepy, with the cold, lifeless expression on the working Joe's faces being a source of genuine terror as you hide in tiny lockers, hoping that the AI doesn't Hail Mary find you. The same goes for the extreme close-ups of the alien during its kill animations. That drool is visceral. The locations do get a bit samey after a while though, and you often rely on the signs hanging around the station to tell you where you are. However, thematically speaking, this does kind of make sense. When we have space stations like this in reality, they'll probably be built by engineers rather than outer space interior designers. I also really appreciated the adherence to the 80s aesthetic for all of the computer monitors. In order to give you the most accurate representation of this game, I played through with a pair of Audio-Technica M50X headphones, which I'd usually use for audio editing and band mixes and things like that. And after finding the right pair of adult nappies like some kind of incontinent Goldilocks, I want to express how much I appreciate the work that went into every sound in this game. This is pants shitting levels of anxiety and dread. Once the alien shows up, every rattle or clank of metal caused my heart to stop, as you never knew if it's right behind you or just running overhead, and the directional sound work is astounding. Most of the time you're relying on your motion sensor and the sounds of the enemies to keep track of where everyone is, who's moving in what direction, etc. And I always had a handle on the people in the room while making my decisions on when to run to the next safe spot. I really appreciated that most of the game is devoid of music completely, allowing the occasional intercom message and the sound of far-off debris falling over to echo and reverberate off the metallic walls, all adding to the titular feeling of isolation.
Is anyone there? If anyone can hear this, we need help. Repeat, we need help urgently. Please respond.
So this is going to sound like a detraction, but my favourite part of the game was the first 2 hours. Before the aliens, before the androids, before any enemies enter the game. You walk around encountering a number of scared humans who, for some reason, want to attack you on sight. I knew the alien was probably going to be introduced in a cutscene or a controlled environment, but walking around never quite knowing if I was truly safe was the most tense part of the game. Once the game introduces enemies, however, we enter the main gameplay loop. The gameplay loop consists of two things: hiding like a scared rabbit, holding space to keep your motion sensor up at all times, or pressing switches. Occasionally you need to hide and choose the right moment to break cover and do a quick minigame before the enemy completes its patrol path and insta-kills you. This is how the game uses its mechanics to build tension, and it's a bit of a double-edged sword. Holding down the mouse buttons and then pressing S to pull this lever, and then waiting for the animation to finish, is pretty tense when you know that there's something around the corner that can kill you instantly. And these moments, although simple, were the parts that gave me the most anxiety and that scare factor that people look for when they play these games. But the problem is, the game then breaks its own rules, and that's when you're taken out of the experience. Like, look at this thing. How can it not see me? I'm right here. My head is sticking out over this barrel. It's supposed to be the perfect killing machine. I can see its asshole. A game breaking its own rules is a cardinal sin for me. The game presents the alien as a physical entity making its way around the ship, but too often the creature will randomly despawn and respawn in annoying ways. It'll run off in one direction, and then you'll turn a corner only to find it in the vent above your head, waiting motionless so your tracker doesn't pick it up. This broke a lot of the tension in the game for me, as instead of acting like an intelligent creature, I quickly learned if I avoided it for long enough, it would scurry into the vents and I had a few seconds to pull that lever before it came back. And pulling the lever is about as complicated as it gets. You just follow your motion tracker until it tells you which lever to push in what order. If we had to maybe solve puzzles on the fly as this thing was chasing us, that would have been truly horrifying. And you do play as an engineer, so there is some precedent for you trying to problem solve quickly and in real time. There's also the previously mentioned computer logs where you can read about the story, and there's some very light Metroidvania-esque style sections where you'll revisit areas with new things that you can use to open up rooms that were locked before. There's also a crafting system where you can make useful items, although the only 3 items I actually found myself using throughout the entire game were the medkits, the flamethrower, which is pretty handy as it makes the alien run away from you, and the bolt gun that you get at the end because it finally lets you kill the androids. Let go! Let go! I would describe Alien Isolation as the shoegaze of horror titles. It does everything it can to stack up the terror and build atmosphere, but this just makes it even more jarring when your immersion is broken. When the game came out, there was a lot of praise given to the AI of the alien, and clearly a lot of work went into it, as I was using the jumps in my CPU usage to tell me when the alien had spawned into the level. But I think they let the game down by giving the alien the ability to break the rules. Being trapped in an enclosed area with a ruthless, intelligent killing machine is right at the heart of what makes the Alien films truly scary. But this game only gives you the impression that that's what's happening, so that anytime you see something gamey happen, it pulls you right out of the experience. All in all, I wouldn't call Alien Isolation a bad game, but a flawed and maybe slightly boring one. So that concludes the video. Thank you very much for watching. Next week I'm going to be reviewing The Amazing Spider-Man, which is the next game on the list. And it's just going to get more random from there. So if you've enjoyed this and you want to see more and stick it to Steam, then subscribe, check back in next time, or don't. Whatever. I'm still going to make the videos. So thanks.